And Moshe said, Hear, O Yisrael, Yahweh your Elohim, Yahweh is one, and you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house and when you walk by the way, when you lie down and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to everyone worshiping with us at home. We are going to be concluding our series today called Who You Lookin At? And one of the things that I would like to remind the folks at home especially is that we are having a series here that's dealing with adult content. And so you may very well want to adjust the viewing audience in front of your television sets at home. As I've said before, you may feel uncomfortable listening to this in mixed company. But I just want to let you know that so that you can make the necessary adjustments. So we're going to start with part 3 now. And one of the things, well, there's several things that we've talked about as we've gotten started. One of the things is that Yahshua addressed this subject of inappropriate looking and about how just looking at a woman to lust after her is committing adultery in your heart. When I started this series, it was originally supposed to be about pornography and its harmful effects, both on those who look at it and on their spouses and on their potential spouses. It can cause a lot of harm. I had originally intended for it to just be one message about the ill effects of inappropriate looking, but as I delved further into the subject, Yahweh showed me that Hashatan is working on multiple levels. He usually is. Amen? And so the sermon turned into a series. That's never happened before, has it? But I will return today to the original intent of the study. All right, I want to do a real quick recap of what we learned in the last 2 messages. All right, we talked in the last message about how very, 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 very visual men are, and about what that means, because it seems that a certain segment of the female population is visual, but overwhelmingly they don't really understand what that means. They hear it and they think they understand what it means for a man to be visual, but it's a little more than you might think. But men are very, very visual, and we don't sign up to be that way. We just are. Men have no more control over being visual than women have over the emotional roller coaster that accompanies monthly hormone fluctuations or those of menopause. It's hard to put a smiley face and have a joyful disposition when you're feeling blue and irritable, isn't it, ladies? Yeah, of course it is. And ladies, it doesn't make you feel one bit better for your man to walk up and say something like, "Why are you so down? What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Well, something's wrong." "Get your arms uncrossed." No, nothing's wrong. I'm fine. "Well, you need to cheer up then." Does that make your feel-bads feel all better when he comes up and does like that? No. If you could feel better, you most likely would, wouldn't you? But sometimes you go ahead and you put on the smiley face and you act like everything's all better, don't you? Yeah. And you know what it does? It takes a lot of energy to do that, doesn't it, ladies? Now imagine there's ladies nodding their heads at home. I can tell you there's heads nodding here at the congregation. Or even worse, to try to act like you're not irritated when everyone in your world has showed up to have a clogging contest on your last nerve. Visualize that one for just a second. It gets on my lap. It takes a lot of energy to do that, doesn't it, ladies? And did you know what? You don't ever get any points. You don't get any points for all the times that you keep your mouth shut when you really want to say something. You stuff your feelings, and you put forth all the effort that it takes to act as if nothing's wrong. You don't get any points for that, do you? You don't gain any appreciation for all the times that you deny your feelings and resist the urge to cry or complain, do you? The only thing that happens, see if I'm not right here, the only thing that happens is that you lose points when you give up and you get blue and you mope around and you bite the heads off of the cloggers. Right? You lose points for that. The reason you don't get any points for acting contrary to your emotions is because the sad fact of the matter is that no one is really able to really read your mind. All right? I don't care what they tell you, they really can't. And because if they could read your mind, they would know just exactly how much effort that you were putting forth in order to be cheerful and patient. Most likely be very appreciative of your altruistic generosity. But it does take a lot of energy, doesn't it, ladies? Unless you're not expending that energy and you're going ahead. But do you know what men don't get any points for? One poor fella in our congregation, folks, just said anything. Even though your man can no more help being visual than you can help being emotional when your hormones flare up, he never gets a single point for putting forth the effort that it takes to make sure that he finds something else to fixate his eyes on so as to divert his attention away from other women in order to honor, yes, Yahweh, but in order to honor you too. He doesn't get any points for that. Does anybody here ever go to Walmart? Okay, well then the three people here will know what I'm talking about. I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot more specials being advertised at Walmart than what's just on the shelf. All right? Especially when the temperatures start to warm up like they are right now. Vacuum packaged, live action displays with all the latest accessories and aromatherapy. And you know where it is? All over the entire store. And they're advertising what they've got. And it takes a lot of effort on his part when he's there. And you know what? He's not a pervert any more than you're psychotic. But this takes a lot of effort. If he's a righteous man, he will put forth the effort. And for the same reason that you can't read his mind, though you may tell him you can, you have no idea just how often this happens, and he honors you. Both when you are standing right there beside him and when he's at Walmart by himself. This is something that's rarely talked about, but it needs to be. And this is an area where men, and that includes your man, is very vulnerable. Now, some of you may be rolling your eyes and saying, why can't you men just control your urges? Give me a break. He can't for the same reason that you can't stop the urge to sit down and have a good cry sometimes when you're feeling unexplainably blue. But you see, here's something that's very, very important, and I want to point this out anytime someone says, why can't you just control your urges? When he does not give in to temptation to look, etc., he is controlling his urges. Oh, man. By controlling his behavior until the urge passes. Now, I was going to ask the question, do any of you men understand what I'm talking about? But I just heard a wave of all means go across the congregation. Now, I want you ladies to understand, I am not trying to diminish the trouble that you have when your hormones make you feel so bad. All right? I'm not being unsympathetic. I am not. But what I do want to express to you, though, is that your man does not fight this battle once a month. He fights it every single day. Unrighteous men don't fight it. They relish it. They indulge in it. They pay you. He is very vulnerable in this area, and Hasatan knows it and takes full advantage of it. Watch this. How many of you women feel like you are met with a barrage of one after another sexually arousing images from the moment that you first get up and turn on the morning newscast, pick up the newspaper, look at the weather forecast on the computer, or are met with billboards and storefront advertisements as you drive to town? Are you dealing, ladies, with hundreds of distracting, arousing images of buff, masculine bodies vying for your eyes' attention? Do you find yourselves inundated with this, ladies? How about it, men? How about you? You find yourselves inundated with hundreds of arousing images of buff, masculine men? All right. I thought we had a different problem to address. Okay. Do you find yourselves inundated? Do you find yourselves inundated with one image after another using the female face and the female form? Men, have you what? To buy a loaf of bread. Have you ever noticed that most of the women on network newscasts are beautiful? Most of the men are not what you'd call ugly. We talked about this a little bit after the camera was off last week. Most of the men are not ugly per se, and some are quite handsome, but the women are overwhelmingly attractive. And in many cases, they are beautiful. Why is that? I mean, the news is the news, right? Would y'all let me preach this? Look, watch this. Let me ask this question. Why not hire someone like Rosie O'Donnell or Roseanne Barr or Hillary Clinton or LaWanda Page? You know who LaWanda Page is, don't you? Do you remember the lady that played Aunt Esther on Sanford and Son? That's Aunt Esther. Why don't they hire women that look real plain? No, as soon as you turn it on in the morning now. It's because, and Pat said it a while ago, as the old adage says, sex sells. And if the news is just the news, well, you need to do something to especially help a certain segment of the audience with holding its attention. And guess which segment of the audience that would be? It'd be the men. Robert?
Isn't that a form of prostitution?
Yes. It is. And that's why you don't usually see a male anchor man with a plunging neckline or collagen lip enhancements. Okay? Okay? All right? Hasatan knows that this is an easy place to attack men, and he hits us from the time we make our first contact with the world until our last contact, day after day after day. It doesn't work on women quite like it works on men. He has other ways. But that's why, while the family is innocently sitting in front of the television set with the children and the grandchildren, all of us sitting around watching something as wholesome as Animal Planet, those annoying and embarrassing commercials come on. You know the ones for Cialis, and Levitra and old guys sitting around singing Viva Viagra. Those commercials appeal to a man's natural propensity toward sex. When the fellas are not sitting around and singing about their new fondness for pharmaceuticals, the commercials shows lots of men smiling confidently as their women look adoringly and desirously at their man. Have you ever noticed? Have you ever noticed that you've never seen one of these commercials where the women are sitting around talking to one another and one of them saying something about how great these products are? You'll never see one of these commercials where the woman's saying something like, "Hey, honey, is there something missing in your sex life? Slip one of these into his cornflakes. He'll never know what hit him." You're not going to see that. But you will see commercial after commercial with men smiling confidently as their women look adoringly and desirously at their man. But this is what brings us to the pornography issue. Yes, there are women who are visual, and there are women who have pornography problems. There's also a bearded lady at the circus and a bear that rides a bicycle. But these are not necessarily the norm. Amen? Pornography is a real problem for a lot of men. And the question is why? And the answer, one of them can be found in 1 Peter chapter 5. 1 Peter chapter 5. First Peter chapter 5, we're going to be on page 1181. Verse 8. Be sober, watch, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. And men are an easy target when it comes to this. And if you are a woman with a pornography problem, this applies to you too. Pornography can create long-lasting problems for even a casual viewer. At any time in one's life, it is corrosive to your spirit and to your mind, especially if it's viewed as a teenager or a young adult before one has a mature understanding of the world. I thought about doing a sermon one time called As Seen on TV. People in general are very persuaded by what they see on TV. If you don't believe me, I'm going to start with the 60s. There might be some... That's when I can start remembering. Do you remember the Beatle haircut? Go-go boots, mini skirts, Nehru jackets, granny glasses. Nobody was wearing these until something happened. When you danced, did you stop dancing close to one another and instead start jerking around in front of your partner? Did you do the monkey or the swim? Did you say things like groovy, psychedelic? Did you start signing the two fingers peace sign, when you met your friends? See, I know. Did you want to be a hippie? Maybe you were a hippie. Did you ever go in the grocery store and pick up the toilet paper and say, "Please don't squeeze the Charmin"? All right. From the 70s, do you remember that all the girls wanted hair like Farrah Fawcett? Do you remember guys walking up going, "Hey," like Fonzie? Where did you see that? Where did you see that? Do you remember everyone needing to get a CB radio and talking in trucker lingo because they watched Smokey and the Bandit? All of this was because we saw it on TV and in the movies, And the radio gets some of it, you know. How about the 80s? Mullets, rat tails, mohawks. If you had any of these haircuts at that time, did you just get up one morning and decide, you know, that'd be a good look for me? Or were you and your friends influenced by what you were looking at and listening to? Did you ever say, I love it when a plan comes together? Did you ever laugh like Pee Wee Herman? Some of you did. Or with a terrible Australian accent say, that's not a knife, that's a knife. Did you ever want some of those lace gloves without fingers like Madonna had? Did you ever try to moonwalk like Michael Jackson? In the 90s, did you ever talk like Beavis and Butthead or walk around talking like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and playing air guitars? Did you get a bowl cut? Or did you start dressing all hip-hop? Then we got to the 2000s, and we've already, now we're almost to the 20s. Then we got to the 2000s, and we've already done the skater look, and the emo look, and the gangsta look and lifestyle. Have you ever talked like Napoleon Dynamite or Nacho Libre? Have you girls ever kissed a girl or wanted to find out what it's all about? Had a girlfriend who wanted to kiss you, or know girls who make out? Do you encounter more and more people than ever who are trying to figure out if they're homosexual or bisexual or trisexual? Trisexual is when you'll try anything. Just saying. All right? Is interracial dating chic and exciting? As a society, what we see on TV influences our behavior. TV likes to say that they reflect society. That's not so. Society reflects what it sees on TV. And TV usually erodes morality. Amen? Think about this. For thousands of years, virginity has been held as a virtue to be preserved. And within the last 50 years or less, girls are getting the message that there's something wrong with them if they're not, quote, doing it. You know, that's a long way from where we once were. Debbie and I were at the checkout line one day, and of course, Cosmopolitan stuck right there in the face of anybody that's that tall or larger. And in big letters it said, Virgins in Cosmo. We thought this day would never come. I looked at Debbie and said, don't worry, it won't last. You know? It's just constantly promoting perversity. In a very short period of time, we've gone from devotion to debauchery. All of this stuff has been a result of what we've been exposed to in the media. We didn't have a lot of the problems going on before TV came out that we do now. We watch it on TV and we turn right around and we start doing it. And sometimes it's just stupid stuff, and sometimes it causes us to be damaged forever. Amen? You know, sometimes I think that scientists, that the reason that they've been unable to find the missing link is because we are it. Amen? They keep looking at what's buried in the dirt instead of looking at what's doing the digging. You know? Because what's the old adage? Monkey see, monkey do. Who's going to argue with that? Just look around the influence that the television's had on it. But you see, life is really not as seen on TV. That's one of the reasons that so many teenage boys get killed doing stupid stuff in cars. They see something on TV done by professional stunt artists and engineers, and these guys spend weeks calculating everything from speed to trajectory the special equipment needed. What's that? Air velocity, wind speed, direction, weight, resistance, etc., and using long mathematical equations to figure this out. So it's to minimize the risk, and hopefully guarantee the success and the safety of the professional stuntman. Professional stuntman. All the young man sees is a cool stunt on TV as the, quote, getaway car jumps through a moving boxcar on a train. Then one day, on an urge and a dare, he tries to jump his dad's Honda Civic through an open boxcar. Or he'll try to do a bootleg maneuver at 70 miles an hour. You know what a bootleg maneuver is? That's where you're going this way and you spin around and go the other way while the cops are chasing you. That doesn't work real good in a Honda Civic at 70 miles an hour and things are not as seen on TV. Unless, of course, you're watching something like Cops. And then, in those types of shows, you get to see what really does happen when you do something stupid in the car. All right? You wind up dead or messed up for life. Now, does anyone here know what a chick flick is? The guys are waving like this. They aren't real either. I'm sorry I didn't let y'all down easy. They're not real either. They tend to be romance-oriented, and they appeal to women, but action films appeal more to men than do romances, but it's not like seen on TV. Action films are exciting, but you talk to a soldier who's been there, and he'll be real quick to tell you that the real thing is nothing like what you see in the movies. And what's this got to do with pornography? It's not any different. Pornography is no different. Real life is not like what happens in pornography. One of the problems is just like everything else that's as seen on TV, it has the very real potential to warp one's sense of what is real and normal and what is not. Many a young man there is that has gone into a marriage expecting things to be as they are seen in the movies. And what happens next is likely to be some rough times in the relationship. He will expect her to do things that he's seen and that he finds exceedingly exciting. She, on the other hand, wants no part of it because it is indeed perverted. He doesn't understand her reluctance. After all, the women in the porno films go wild for this kind of stuff. And though he knows that he's been watching actors and actresses who are being paid to act out a script, it becomes as irrelevant to him as all the preparation that went in to jump in the car through the moving train. And he lusts in reality for that which isn't real. Frequently the same young man that said he would love, honor, and cherish her will then begin to pressure her and make her feel like there's something wrong with her, when in reality there's something wrong with him, though he doesn't usually think so. You see, pornography can actually cause brain damage. It causes the mind to rewire itself. Brain scientists say that there is a part of our brains where we store images of graphic violence and graphic pornography. Once they're there, they are there forever. They can be recalled with great detail at will and also against our wills. And remember we talked about the mental Rolodex last week? That goes in there. Once you put it in there, it's there to stay. And it's kind of like the dents in your car. You know, you can pull the dents out. and you can put Bondo in it, and you can repaint it, but it's never as good as new. Carfax will tell you it's been wrecked. And the damage is still there, always just underneath the surface. Your brain becomes damaged, and you have to decide just how many dents you want to inflict in it, brothers and sisters. That's one of the main reasons that we must turn our eyes from this stuff. We mustn't be like Lot's wife. Now, if you've never seen any of this stuff, don't look. Nothing good is going to come of it, and it causes soul erosion. That's a good one there. Soul erosion. It is exceedingly easy to become for it to become a real addiction that causes real problems. Not only in one's relationship with their wife, but with other women as well. And you can talk to someone who has these types of addictions, and they'll tell you what a terrible thing it is to wrestle with. And you know what? You do not have to be distracted. I mean, you don't have to act out to be distracted. But turn with me to James chapter 1, and let's look at what Jacob said. Jacob, James. Chapter 1. We're going to start reading in verse 13. Let no one say when he is enticed, I am enticed by Elohim. For Elohim is not enticed by evil matters, and he entices no one. But each one is enticed when he is drawn away by his own desires and trapped. Then, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it has been accomplished, brings forth, what's that next word? Death. Ladies, if your man has a pornography problem, I know that this might be hard for some of you to believe, but it is not because there's something wrong with you. It is because Hasatan is attacking him where he is weak. It hasn't got anything to do with how attractive you are, etc., etc. It's because he has a place where he's weak, and that's where he's being attacked. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Am I doing better, Joanne? Going to start reading in verse 1. And concerning the matters that you wrote to me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. But what are those next three words? Because of whoring. Let each one have his own wife, and let each woman have her own husband. Remember, there was whoring in Corinth. Right? Let the husband render to his wife what is due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does, and likewise the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. This means the authority to give your body to whomever you wish. That's what that authority is. Do not deprive one another, except with agreement for a time, to give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, so that Satan does not try you because of your lack of self-control. Right? It is because Hasatan is attacking him where he is weak. And you are certainly well within your rights to be upset and demand that this stuff stop. See, he is committing adultery in his heart, and he is being unfaithful to you in a very casual sort of way. But unless you are not fulfilling your wifely duties, and even if you are not, it doesn't mean that it's acceptable for him to act this way, but unless you're not fulfilling your wifely duties, the problem most likely lies with him and him alone. Well, him him alone with Satan, that is. Matthew 5. Matthew 5, we're going to start reading in verse 27. It's going to be on page 921 in the old ISR. 5:27, Yeshua says, "You heard that it was said to those of old, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone looking at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and throw it away from you. For it is better for you that one of your members perish than your entire body be thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away from you. For it is better for you that one of your members perish than for your entire body to be thrown into Gehenna. And it has been said, whoever puts away his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever puts his wife away, puts away his wife, except for the matter of whoring, makes her commit adultery. But whoever marries a woman who has been put away commits adultery." By the way, ladies, if you're the one with the pornography problem, you're committing whoring in your heart. Some women, for whatever reason, consent to their husband's pornography. If this is happening in your house, I would recommend getting some help immediately. You are permitting your husband to commit adultery. You are permitting your husband to commit adultery. Your marriage is very, very, very unhealthy. It's outside of Yahweh's will, and likely quite full of heartache, both now and in the past to come. For you, him, and your children, if you should have them. Some people say, "Hey, it's only looking." Inappropriate looking has got a lot of men in trouble in the Scripture. In the Scripture. Turn with me to Genesis chapter 34. Genesis 34. And we'll see what happens here. Verse 2. And Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the land, what are those next two words? Saw her, and took her, and lay with her, and humbled her. Genesis 38. Bereshit 38, verse 1. And at that time it came to be that Yehudah left his brothers and turned aside to a man, an Adulamite, whose name was Hirah. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua. And he took her and went into her. Verse 13. And it was reported to Tamar, saying, "See, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep." And she took off her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil and wrapped herself and sat at the entrance to Enayim, which is on the way to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as a wife. And Yehudah saw her and reckoned her for a whore. You know, sometimes we have to wonder that when we see certain women. You know it? We see them and reckon if they're a whore or not. One of the worst things that I see is what goes on in social media a lot. I've seen men's wives, daughters, sisters, betrothed, and you can see everything they've got. Anybody ever seen that? And it makes you wonder. And Yehudah saw her and reckoned her for a whore, for she had covered her face. And he turned aside to her by the way and said, Please, let me come in to you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What do you give me to come in to me? And he said, Let me send you a young goat from the flock. And she said, Do you give me a pledge until you send it? So he said, What pledge should I give you? And she said, Your seal and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. And she gave to him, and he went into her, and she conceived by him. Does everybody know the rest of the story? She turns up pregnant, and Yehudah's going to have her burned. And so she pulls out the seal and the cord, and he says, Do over. She's more righteous than me. Yeah, dun dun dun. Judges 14. Judges 14. Yeah, while I'm thinking about that, I told a story, a true story, off camera a couple of weeks ago about. Now I'm not going to get into all of it, but a picture that I had of one of my daughters a long time ago, back before I got into walk, and it was getting a lot of men's attention in my office, but I didn't notice that because she was my little girl. But a couple of people expressed to me what they thought about that picture. It wasn't righteous. But you know what? What she was being allowed to wear back then wasn't righteous. You know? And don't know why it didn't occur to me, because when the same kind of pictures were on other people's desks, I noticed. But when it's my desk, it's my kid, I don't see it. I would like to recommend to everybody that's got whatever type of social media you're on, go examine your pictures and see what's on there, because there's other people that see your pictures. Judges 14, verse 1. I got rid of that picture that was on my desk, by the way. I'd brought too much. I'd brought enough dishonor to let her be like that. I didn't think it was appropriate to keep it going. Verse 1. And Shimshon went down to Timnah and saw a woman. Pretty plain, isn't it? In Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines. And he went up and informed his father and mother, saying, I've seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of the Philistines, and now take her for me for a wife. But his father and mother said to him, Is there no woman among the daughters of your brothers or among all my people that you should take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? And Shimshon said to his father, Take her for me, because she is a woman of great character. Is that what it says? It says, Take her for me, for she is pleasing in my eyes. She looks good. What's that? Right. But see, that's all he was concerned with. There's too many people get involved in situations just because of that. 2 Samuel. No, I'm sorry. Judges 16:1. And Shimshon went to Uzzah. You don't have to turn this, just one verse. And saw a woman there, a whore, and went into her. He did have a problem. And as we talked about in the first part of the series, 2 Samuel, chapter 11. Starting in verse 1. 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 1. And it came to be at the turn of the year, at the time sovereigns go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him, and all Israel, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem, and it came to be at evening that David rose up from his bed and walked about on the roof of the sovereign's house, and from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was, what are those next 5 words? Very good to look at. It's supposed to be a man after Elohim's own heart. The other guy was, and the other guy is a judge of Israel. All right, and the other guy was the father of the tribe who YHWH came through. All right. And David sent and asked about the woman, and one said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" And David sent messengers to fetch her. And she came to him, and he lay with her, for she was cleansing herself from her uncleanliness, and she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, and sent and informed David, and said, "I am pregnant." All right? All this started as a result of just looking. Amen? Just looking. And though sexual addiction is more common in men, there's at least one example of a woman with that problem in the Scripture that we're going to look at. Genesis 39. Bereshit. Bereshit, Genesis 39. I'm going to start reading in verse 6. It's going to be on page 42. And he being Potiphar, left in Joseph's hand all that he had, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. And Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. Okay? And after these events, it came to be that his master's wife lifted up her eyes to Joseph and said, "Lie with me." Now notice what Joseph does. But he refused. All right? You see, you do have a choice in a matter like this. But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what is with me in the house, and he has given into my hand all that he has. No one is greater in his house than I, and he has not withheld whatever from me but you, because you are his wife. And how shall I do this great evil and sin against Elohim?" And it came to be, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not listen to her, to lie with her, to be with her. You can say no over and over if you need to. And it came to be on a certain day when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. And it came to be, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought into us a Hebrew to mock us. He came in to lie with me and cried out with a loud voice. And it came to be, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it came to be, when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home." Now, I want to direct your attention to something that I think is relevant. Turn with me to Numbers 15. Numbers 15. Going to be on page 158. Starting in verse 29. "For him who does whatever by mistake, there is one Torah both for him who is native among the children of Israel and for the stranger who sojourns in their midst. But the being who does whatever defiantly, whether he is native or stranger, he reviles Yahweh, and that being shall be cut off from among his people, because he has despised the word of Yahweh and has broken his command. That being shall certainly be cut off. His crookedness is upon him. And while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day, and those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moshe and to Aharon and to all the congregation, and they put him in under guard, because it had not been declared what should be done to him. And Yahweh said to Moshe, the man shall certainly be put to death. All the congregation stoning him with stones outside the camp, and the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones as Yahweh commanded Moshe, and he died. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them to make zitziot on the corners of their garments throughout their generations, and to put a blue cord in the zitzit of the corners, and it shall be to you for a zitzit, and you shall see it and remember all the commands of Yahweh, and shall do them, and not search after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you went whoring. What's the name of this message? Who are you looking at? And not search after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you went whoring, so that you remember and shall do all my commands, and be set apart unto your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim to be your Elohim. I am Yahweh your Elohim. So maybe you need to hang a zitzit on your television set or your computer to help you to remember not to search after your own eyes and go whoring. The word pornography comes from the Greek words pornographs, which means writing about harlots. It's the, sorry, I lost my place here. It's from porne for harlot and graph. All right? Now, turn with me to Ephesians chapter 5. You see, to start with, it wasn't about videos and pictures. It was about writing pornography. Writing about harlots and their escapades. Huh? What? I still can't hear. Oh, yeah, the way some romance novels get, yeah. Some of them are awful. Ephesians 5, verse 3. But whoring, now this is the same chapter where Paul also talks to you about how women should revere their husbands and husbands love their wives, all right? But whoring in all uncleanliness or greed of gain, let it not even be named among you, as is proper among set apart ones. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor coarse jesting, which are not fitting, but rather thanksgiving. For this you know, that no one who whores, nor unclean one, nor one greedy of gain, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the reign of Messiah and Elohim. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these the wrath of Elohim comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not become partakers with them. And then Revelation 21, page 1209. Revelation 21. Oh, did I say verse 9? Verse 7. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But as for the cowardly and untrustworthy and abominable and murderers and those who whore, drug sorcerers and idolaters and all the false, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Okay, so there's more than one thing that'll get you there. That's one of them that will. Amen? Revelation 22, verse 14. Blessed are those doing His commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. But outside are the dogs, and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and the idolaters, and all who love and do falsehood. And Yeshua said in Matthew 5:28, you don't have to turn there, just want to, it's one verse. But I say to you that everyone looking at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery or whoring with her in his heart. There is help for the person who has a problem and wants help. And I will be glad to give you some help and direction if that's an issue for you here in the congregation or on our outreach ministry program. You can contact me. But it is a problem that can be overcome. But unless it's arrested, it will eat away at you like a cancer and cause untold harm to you and your family. Remember, inappropriate looking has caused the fall of many a good man. Amen? Don't let it happen to you. Perhaps a good question to put on your computer till you get a ZZ there. On your TV or your computer. What did you say, Matt? This is the title of this message. Who you looking at? Yevrakeka Yahweh Va'ishmareka Ya'er Yahweh Panavaleka Vikaneka Yasa Yahweh Panavaleka Viasim Lakas Shalom. Yahweh bless you and guard you. Yahweh make His face to shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahweh lift up His face upon you and give you His complete contentment.